It's so interesting because inflation, you could kind of think of it like a beach ball. And you're at the beach and you're trying to push that beach ball under the water, and it just keeps popping up and popping up. And do you think maybe that the central banks are having this challenge with inflation? Because frankly, the harder you push that inflation bubble down, the more and the greater it wants to pop up. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, because after that blowout jobs report and everything being so hunky-dory, U.S. CPI rises more than forecast, stalling inflation's progress. Here's the reality. They have already taken the purchasing power out of the currency. Therefore, what we're really dealing with is deflation. Their fiat money assets are severely overvalued and they want to go down, which is all about deflation. But here we go. Oh, core CPI advanced. Oh my goodness. An overall metric picked up. This is more about what that looks like. So up here on the top, goods prices climbed the most since May of 2023. They were still raising rates then. And core services costs also advanced. So in both areas, this is month over month, and you can see how that has been rising month over month. That's the third month in a row, and this is year over year. Now, overall, we're up at 3.3%, and really the 2%, that's just an arbitrary target. They just feel that that's low enough inflation that you don't notice, but certainly that you don't ask for higher wages or more money, and you don't complain about the cost going up. In other words, you do not change your behavior, which is the definition of price stability. But real earnings grew 1.5% from a year ago. And that was the most since June of 2023. But wait a minute. Real earnings grew 1.5%, but their version of inflation grew 3.3%. So it's kind of like the harder you push down on that beach ball, you and I, the individual, will never keep pace with inflation, because that was the design that was put into the system at the beginning of it. Because U.S. consumer sentiment falls. Now look, what did they test? It was Kissinger who said, it is not what's real that matters. It is what is perceived to be real that matters. And so they keep telling us that they have inflation under control, which is a big fat lie. At the same time that inflation and prices are going up, and magically, wow, U.S. consumer sentiment unexpectedly falls on what? The high cost of living. Shocking. I mean, seriously shocking. There's consumer sentiment falling and inflation expectations are rising. These are key for the central bank and the government, because it isn't what's real that matters. It is the perception. This is a con game. Every good con game, it needs confidence. And that's what these two things measure, which is why they put them together and why they always look at them. Because again, it's not what is real that matters. It is what is perceived to be real. So while the rate of inflation has cooled over the past year, households remain troubled by high prices that they also see outpacing their income gains in the year ahead, which I find absolutely fascinating because, I mean, Janet Yellen, tone deaf. These guys are tone deaf. Why don't they get that we've got inflation under control? How about because they're having trouble feeding their families? How about because they're having trouble paying all of their bills? So that truth, the harder they push down on this, it doesn't work anymore. That inflation beach ball keeps popping up, but it's no day at the beach for you and me. It's no day at the beach for most people that are struggling to figure out how they're going to get to work, how they're going to feed their families, how they're going to get through this. That's what makes coming together in community so vitally important, because we need the help of all of those around us to come together, bring the gifts that they've been given, bring the tools and the experiences and the talents that you have. That's what we need to do on a local basis, because this is all the setup for hyperinflation, which I know I'm unpopular when I say this, but when I'm looking at the data, that's what I'm seeing. In the meantime, can consumers continue to consume, take on more debt, take on more credit? Because the U.S. average FICO score, which is what determines the interest rate that you pay, etc., on your debt, well, it holds steady after the first in a decade fall, because they keep changing the rules and making it easier and easier and easier. And all of these tricks, again, it's not what's true that matters. It's what is perceived to be true. And hey, there are ads that I've seen, and we should pull one, that blatantly says, yeah, we know how to game the credit score system. Just call us. We'll game it for you. Your credit score will go up. But in the meantime, your credit score can be as high as you want to. You still have to take on debt if you're going to maintain your current standard of living with all the costs of everything you do that are also going up. So here is the percentage of population that's 30 days past due in the last year, and that continues to rise. Maybe a little bit slower, but that continues to go up. And it's it's almost 18.25% that have been delinquent on their payments in the last 30 days. And at the same time, and it looks awfully similar, the average credit card balances, which are actually growing faster than the population that is 30 days late, but the average credit card balance is over $7,400 right now. And if you are not making enough of a payment to take away some of your principal, to pay off some of your principal, then that interest, same thing's happening to the government. That interest is now, the excess interest is going into the principal, and you are paying compounded interest on that interest. And once that's where you are, how do you ever get out of that? You don't. You end up declaring bankruptcy. For governments, bankruptcy is hyperinflation. So here are those two key credit metrics that missed. Payment rates and borrower balances continue to increase in April from last October, the most current data. So you want to know how to keep pace with inflation and the CPI? Oh, I don't know. Here is a relative performance chart from 2008, which is when the system died. Make no mistake about it. I've been talking about the reset since then. So, relative performance chart between spot gold, which is a contract that they don't want you to be positioning into physical gold because they can't steal your wealth as easily. And this is between the CPI, so you can see how, according to their data, that has risen, and spot gold. So even in this manipulated gold market, can you see that gold still maintains your ability to purchase and actually does that on a much broader scale? And I've shown you that before with food and with autos and with everything else. It's really very simple. This is the time to get to safety. And frankly, gold is the primary currency metal because it is the only thing, not just a metal, but the only thing that actually meets all the criteria to be a good currency. Central banks are taking those things away like, I don't know, I mean, what a concept, so that you can save money so that whenever you get to use it, you're actually always fairly paid for your labor. What a concept. But why would you make any other choice if you really understood what was happening? So you always want to convert as much of your excess fiat that you earn into physical gold and physical silver. You need to get your sound money strategy in place, and you can go ahead and use the QR code. You can click the link. You can give us a call. Any way that's going to work for you, because it is critically important that you have that in place right now. Actually, when did you need that in place? In 2008, and that's when I personally started working on it. We don't have that much time left. I can't tell you exactly the moment, but what I can tell you is that rapid inflation means that confidence deteriorates even more rapidly. That's why they're trying to slow it down, not eliminate it, because what they really call growth is inflation. So much of that is inflation. You cannot create wealth on debt. You can only create the semblance of wealth on debt. But when you have debt, you have to pay that. And if you're compounding interest like the U.S. government is doing, you're never getting out of debt, but all that debt eats more and more and more of your income, which is why we're seeing people more and more and more delinquencies. But what does our government do? They just go create more debt. That's all. More debt, more money, reducing the value of all of that money that's already out there that you and I have worked for and tried to save to educate our children, to retire, to go on vacation, whatever it is. Don't be fooled. You've got to have a sound money strategy, but you've also got to build local community. Because as I said, we're running out of time. I've been working on this in earnest. I've been working on gold and silver really for a very, very long time. But the rest of the mantra, the food, water, energy, security, barterability, which we know I like silver the best, wealth preservation, gold the best, community and shelter. Please, people, we are running out of time. Create your community. We've got some things coming up that I'm working with Morgan on to show you how to build community in your area. But before that happens, go to your farmer's market, get to know the people that grow your food. Go say hello to your neighbor, because there is strength in numbers. And so if you come together to support each other on a local basis and then also on a global basis, we have to have a sound money strategy. We have to come together globally in order to demand our rights back, because they took them away and we allowed them to do it in 33, and then the world allowed the U.S. to do it in 71. We need to take our rights back. We've seen what's happened with Zimbabwe, and they claim that the currency is backed by gold. Well, that's not true, because it was actually backed by gold. They couldn't do a 43, 44% overnight devaluation. But you couldn't go, as a Zimbabwean, you couldn't go and pull the gold out of the system because you didn't believe them. Heck no. In fact, you didn't even have a bill to preserve your principal. Heck no. And we saw just recently, what is their job? Their job is to lie, and oh my gosh, let's lie some more. So with that, I'm going to say, make sure, let's have this conversation together. That's part of community. So if you haven't done it yet, hit that like button, but let's talk about this, everybody together. Until next we meet, this is a great community, and I'm so grateful to all of you and so happy to be part of it, because I know 100% together we can make a positive difference for the whole world. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.